Our next panel discussion is on international retailers in India. I would request Mr. Francisco Pepillo, Deputy Director, Mapping Markets, to kindly come on stage. Please welcome Mr. Francisco Pepillo, Deputy Director, Mapping Markets, with a huge round of applause.
So, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. So it is an honor and a privilege for me to be here with you to open this session dedicated to international retailers that are looking to develop their business in India. First of all, I want to warmly thank our colleagues from Read Exhibition India for the quality of this event and the very high level of the conference program. As you probably know, IRF is now part of the MAPIC family of events. MAPIC events are the leading events dedicated to international retail property market. Our main events, MAPIC, take place each year in Cannes and French Riviera, and it will celebrate this year its 24th edition. Each year we gather over 8,700 participants, including 2,200 retailers, 2,500 landlords and property developers, and over 1,000 property investors. Along with our main event, we have started developing some regional events. You will see it on the screen. So we have now an event in Milan in Italy and Moscow in Russia. There is IRF here in Mumbai, and there is a forum in Hong Kong. So 3 years ago, when we started our MAPIC brand expansion strategy, we looking for a country where to develop a MAPIC event. We have a lot of options. There are several markets that showcase some potential to have a dedicated platform that could gather domestic and international retail property players. And among the options, we choose to invest in India, taking over IRF, because we strongly believe in the potential of Indian market and the professionalism of the Indian players. And this has been confirmed by all the international retailers and investors that used to come to our show that confirm us that they are really interested in expanding their business in this market. India has become today the new preferred destination for international retailers and property investors, overtaking China as the most attractive retail market, with the size of the market that has been growing at a very fast pace in the last 5 years. Indian landlords are constantly looking for new retailers in order to improve the shopping experience of their customer. Many important global brands have started their operation in India recently, and many others are to come. So in few minutes, you will listen to some influential experts of the Indian property market that give you some insight on this market and on the keys for an international brands to be successful in the market. And you will also discover some amazing retail concepts that are looking to expand their business here and are looking for business alliance with Indian partners. So I do not want to take any more time to you. I just want to thank you to be here, and I will invite you to join us for our next event, the MAPIC event that will take place in Cannes next November. And this year in Cannes, we will have a special focus on India. We will have a dedicated workshop on Indian market and a great pavilion that is financed by the Federation of India Export Organization and the Ministry of Commerce and the Indian government, because they want to push India as the new retail destination at global level. So before leaving the stage to Jayne Rafter from RLI that will moderate this panel, and the great panel, I will just leave you with a short trailer of MAPIC.
If you're working in the retail and real estate industries, you have to join us in Cannes, because next November
It's not finished, huh?
will kick off its 24th edition. Join the ultimate event for the international retail property market. Embrace the new retail shift and connect. Network. Meet retailers in vogue and pure players. Share your projects. Close deals. Discover new ideas. And why not? Expand your universe. Along with 8,600 other participants from 80 countries, 800 exhibiting companies, 1,000 investors, 2,500 developers, and over 2,100 retailers. So, what about getting a year's worth of business in only 3 days? Discover the next trends in pop-up, food and beverage, leisure, and be on top of the game. Attend conferences hosted by La Creme de la Creme, strolling the Innovation Forum, or gain recognition in the MAPIC Awards. We have so much in store for you. Let's shop the world together and all meet in Cannes from November 14 to 16, 2018. See you there.
Thank you. Jayne.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be back here in Mumbai. Some of you may recall or remember me. The first India Retail Forum that I attended was back in 2007. So there's been a lot of changes since then. And I've been to many over the years. I think this is probably about my 8th. So it's great to be back here. And it's also great now to be involved with MAPIC on this really good event. So I think you're going to find a lot of changes over the coming years, and it's going to really enlighten everybody's thoughts on India and everything else. So it's great to be back here. This afternoon's panel is going to be international retailers, again powered by MAPIC. And we're going to be taking a little snapshot about the Indian retail market. We're also going to look at sourcing the right local partner and finding the best strategy to penetrate India. We will take a focus on established international brands and best experiences, and we will take a look at some new locations from 2 very well-established developers here, and we will discover international retailers looking for expansion in this burgeoning market. So, may I call upon Vivek Kaul, Head of Asia for CBRE. So, Vivek, how has the market changed in recent years? And what opportunities are there for international brands looking to enter India?
Okay, let me just thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Jain. What's changed over the years? Well, lot has new norms in FDI and real estate. So obviously, single brand and multi-brand retailing. GST has become a reality. Which was on for quite some years. It's become a reality now. Quality supply is building up in retail real estate. There's a lot of institutional investors who are looking at this space, so there is a huge amount of money that's pumping into quality real estate, which is good because it upgrades the mix of the retail developments itself. E-commerce has increased the awareness of brands in tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well. And that's quite helpful because there are a lot of people who aspire to shop at these brands, can afford and get them at their homes. Obviously now e-commerce is also getting into brick and mortar, and that's the latest trend that's happening globally as well as in India as well. And the new buzzword, F&B leisure, everybody is wanting to create placemaking, social spaces, and so on. So that's the flavor of the season as of now.
And what about the first steps? What are those first steps that retailers should take when entering the market?
I think most importantly is India is a fairly large market, right? Like the European Union, which has 28 countries, we have 29 states, right? And it's diverse as well. Most importantly, I think you should like Indian food. Okay, that's the key to success. The more spicy, the more profitable you will be in India. But jokes apart, I think it's important for you to come to India and just get the feel of it. That's critical. You can keep reading about, second highest users of Facebook, second highest users of WhatsApp, second highest users of LinkedIn. So, as I keep telling everybody, you look outside, you'll find people in India. That's not a problem. You need to understand the market. And understanding of the market is very important for you to understand whether you will do well here or not. Also, most importantly for retailers is acceptability of your brand in the country. And that's something that you will only get to know once you start meeting A, potential partners, B, potential developers. Because if you don't have, if the developer refuses to give you space, then the partner, irrespective of who the partner is, space is going to become a challenge as well. So, it's something where it's a complicated market, right? So it's something where you follow supply because demand is everywhere. So you need to follow supply. Real estate supply is critical. It is increasing because of institutional funding. And, but yeah, it's going to take time. We don't build malls in like 2 years. Some developers do, but they usually complete it in the 5-year cycle. But yeah, the reality is you need to follow supply. Demand is already there.
And it's essential to do your homework.
Very important. Very important.
So if you had to choose one piece of advice that was key to all retailers, what would that be?
I think most importantly, prepare a great deck for the market, okay? And you need to be very, very passionate about your brand to sell the brand in the country. If you're low on passion, you won't find developers / potential partners looking at you. Passion is very, very important. Preparing a good deck, well-informed deck about your brand. Where all it's been operational, how many years it's been operational for, what are the similarities that you think it will, your brand will have with respect to the Indian market. Yeah, so make a good deck.
Thank you, Vivek. So moving forward, I'd just like to say before we invite two special retailers on stage, we'd like to have this session as interactive as possible. So I know it's coming to the end of the day, but I don't want to see any of you falling asleep, or else I'll be asking you questions. So if there are any questions from any of you for any member of our panelists, if you put up your hand at any time, we will take that question so that we can engage you throughout the whole of the session.
Can I just request the colleagues to lower down the temperature here because I'm going to burn now.
The lights. So without further ado, could I invite to the stage Tushar, President of Major Brands, and also Rajesh Jain, MD and CEO of India for Lacoste. Over the next few minutes with both these gentlemen, we're going to be looking at sourcing the right local partner and finding the best strategy to penetrate India. So if I may start with you, Tushar, can you give us a brief overview of the brands that you currently have in your portfolio?
So just let me give you a brief about my group. We are a group from Dubai called the Apparel Group. We operate in 14 countries, 1,900 plus stores. We in India operate 10 brands, 200 plus stores. We operate, the latest brand that we got and introduced in Delhi was Bath & Body Works. So we do Bath & Body Works, Pramod, Aldo Accessories, Charles & Keith. We do La Senza, New Balance, something I'm forgetting, but we do 10 brands total.
Thank you. And what do you look for in a brand? When you're taking on new brands, what do you actually look for?
A lot of times I tell people you do never look at the past. Do not look at the past of the brand. Look at the future of the brand. The future is very well predicted by kids. My daughter is 15-year-old. A lot of times, for female brands, a lot of times I go to her and she goes, Dad, mom shops there. I told her there's this big international brand coming to India. She goes, Dad, I was not even born when this brand was there. Right? I think there was some Bollywood star singing with that brand with a 3-letter word. She goes, it's not going to work. I don't know the brand. It was your age. I don't follow that star. I follow the younger teenage stars. They are the future. We also talk to a lot of international malls and find out what's happening in the mall environment in the US or Europe where they are generated from. They give us the sales per square foot of that brand. So we talk to them, we get information from there. A lot of conferences, IRF, you know what's hot, what's doing well, what is the trend. So a lot of information gathering and collection helps.
And perhaps while we are talking to Tushar, we could have some slides of Lacoste in the background. What challenges have you faced when educating the market on your new concepts?
Challenges in the Indian market when you're bringing a new brand. You know, one line, there's Lord and then there's Landlord. So I think explaining to the landlord what the brand is, a lot of malls do not understand that. They don't know the brand. Either they are not well traveled, they don't have the information. I think that's the challenge. Then explaining to them why in a footwear brand I need 20% or 30% as a back room. No, but you can do a store in 500 square feet. It doesn't work. You are killing the brand. I tell everybody, even the brand sellers, do what you want, don't change my DNA. I understand the cost of real estate is the highest in India. The landlord in a lot of malls actually talks to us and say, cut down 100 square feet from your store, give it back to me. I will not renew your contract. They have to understand that we need trial rooms in a female fashion brand. I cannot run a store without trial rooms. I need space for that. Making them understand is a challenge. Infrastructure has improved a lot when I talk logistics, but also that becomes a challenge sometimes, and you have to be very smart in managing that. Can I do daily deliveries in my store? The biggest challenge is getting a good location and explaining to the landlord what the brand is all about.
And how does the brand experience translate across cultures?
So the latest brand, again, I'll come back to that, was the last, we just opened in the month of June. The store you experience in the US for Bath & Body Works is the same store in India. Signage is the same, color is the same, experience is the same, uniform is the same. And the international brand that we bring in, they will bring their training with them. We, as a retailer, our job is to make sure the DNA does not change. What you experience in New York or Dubai is what you should experience in India. What we do and what we help tell the brands what they need to understand, you might not be able to do the same height. A lot of people want a certain height of the store, certain facade, because a lot of malls have restrictions on the height, ceiling height. These are challenges that we have to explain to them that you'll have to adopt. So a lot of adaptability is needed. Indians have a very small space or household or apartments. We don't have bathtubs. Right? I cannot be selling a lot of bath products that go in the tub like a bath fizz. Right? But we keep it in the store because it's a DNA. But then we make sure that we have other products that transit to that. Then you also tweak you don't change your product, you change the collection. Your winter collection, summer collection, Indian love strong fragrances, flowery fragrance, so you bring that. You don't bring fragrances that don't work. First 6 months, a lot of them, we tweak it. After 6-7 months, we're able to say what is the customer expecting, and we have a lot of festivals. Every month there's a festival, somewhere in India. We had Raksha Bandhan, we did extremely well. For me to explain to somebody in Europe or US what is Raksha Bandhan is difficult. Diwali is big. So a lot of brands are now using Diwali and launching collections for Diwali, which never used to happen 3 years back.
Gifting would be big, right?
Gifting is huge. This is the first time, I don't know, I have a few sisters, but sisters were giving brothers gift.
No, the reason why I brought up gifting is because there is a gift under your chair, and you have to clap the loudest to get it.
It's not from me, but. So gifting is huge. You cannot miss that. Actually, we ran out of gift boxes in some of our stores during Raksha Bandhan. We got orders from Ahmedabad where we don't have a store. A sister brought a huge quantity for her brothers via phone order because we are not online. So
And what part do multi-channel options play in your business, such as catalogs, and then obviously you've got the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and everything else. What part do they play?
So let's start with the marketing. If you're not on social media, you're dead. You shouldn't be in the room, you shouldn't be in retail or any business. Social media is huge. Our marketing expense budget, 60% we spend on social media, we are going to move to 80%. I hope the media, the magazines are not here, because the magazines were this thick have become this thin. We put hardly any ads, but if they are here, they should know we are not going to put any more ads in next 2 years in the magazines. Everybody has moved online. You also have to remember, Facebook is little lower now, even in the US, even in India, privacy setting, and the young generation uses Insta. Insta is the in thing right now. If you are there, we get more traction on Insta than Facebook. Facebook is for a lot of people my age. Insta is a lot of younger generation. I'm not on Insta, but I've told my team to give me training on Insta. What needs to be done, right? How do I log in? I have no idea. But you have to be on that. We are going to be 80% in next 2 years. It's going to be digital, social, media. We don't have approvals for doing online for a lot of our brands. So this is India. We use a word called Jugaad, right? Innovation. We can ask some Indian guy next to you if you don't know, and you'll understand what that means. And we take phone orders. Why should I lose a customer? Get me on the phone, I'll take your order.
And what lies ahead for you? What do you perceive to be the greatest challenge facing you and your company right now?
Lord and landlord. No, I think challenge is a mindset. I think you have to keep adopting, keep changing, innovating, create market presence, create noise. You're nobody if nobody knows you. If you're not creating a noise for the brand is not big enough. You have to create a noise. Somebody yesterday asked me, sitting next to me, saying, how come some of your products are more expensive than mine? I said, because you're selling it cheaper. Right? There's no challenge. Customer is there. Question is, are you ready to take that customer and make sure that he or she goes with a good experience? Price is a mindset. Is he or she going with a good experience of the product? And saying, you know what, I'm going to come back again because your team was fantastic. Is your store looking as good as it does in New York or Dubai, or you're even looking better? Are you doing that? And that is the key. You have to keep your stores in a good hygiene condition, and the mall also has to be in one. And it is very, very, very important.
Thank you, Tushar. Moving on to you, Rajesh. What were the key factors for Lacoste in sourcing the right partner?
So, Jain, we entered India quite early, early 90s, 1993 is when we started operations. So in my view, the most important factor for any international brand to enter India is to find a like-minded partner. Of course, the ability to invest capital, ability to run the stores well, ability to attract the customers, all things are given. They are very, very important, and one always does this ref check and the background checks, whether the partner can do that kind of a thing or no. But the most important factor in my view is having a like-minded partner who can keep your brand DNA intact. He should not compromise with the brand ethos, brand DNA. So just to give you an example, Lacoste, for example, works on a selective distribution network throughout the world, which means every new point of sale that we open is chosen very, very carefully. We just don't go and start expanding our business right, left, and center, which is very easy in a sense. If you invest money, you can keep on expanding your presence. However, since Lacoste follows a selective distribution system, we also are pretty much in sync with that distribution system, and we don't unnecessarily keep on expanding. We keep the brand DNA and the brand positioning in mind before we open a new door. So in my view, to answer your question, the like-minded persons, they only can have a good presence of the brand in the market.
So you have a strong, recognizable brand, and maintaining brand equity is of paramount importance. How do you feel like you've achieved this within the market?
Sure. So we are known for strict, clean-cut designs and aesthetics. Our point of sales, if you see that we keep on working on them to make the shopping experience a luxurious experience. However, we ensure that all those shopping experience allows the product design and the styles to take the center stage. Those product designs and styles, which are inspired by sports and French elegance in our case, they add a lot of value to the customers also. We look at innovation as one of the most important factor, and the first innovation that we do is on our products. Our preparation for launching a range starts at least 1 year in advance. A lot of research, experiences, and then a lot of efforts are put in to launch that range a year from now. That means one can understand the kind of freshness that we need to provide to our doors every 1 or 2 months. It is prepared pretty much well in advance. We also believe in trying out new things. So because of that, we keep on collaborating with the, let's say, illustrious designers throughout the world on a global level. If I look at my customers, customer surveys and customer delight, they are our top priority. Because of that, we take our customer surveys and our visual merchandising very, very seriously. One very important factor that we have within our DNA is that we have to maintain consistency. So whether you shop in India, China, US, Paris, anywhere in the world, you will get exactly the same kind of environment, exactly the same kind of merchandise. So the customer already knows, even before entering a shop anywhere in the world, including India, he knows what he is going to expect there in the shop. Now, if you look at technology part also, technology is also very, very relevant, and we also believe a lot in technology. However, I would just like to add a word of caution here. It's not that when technology comes, we go after everything and anything. We choose our options very, very carefully, and we choose and pick only those options which are relevant for our brand and which are relevant for our customers. So those are some of the points that make the brand still relevant, and we grow year on year basis because of all these factors that I've just mentioned. Even after 25 years in India, we are still considered a very, very relevant brand for all age groups. We used to think that our customer base is 40 plus or something of that sort. But we were very surprised when we started our own e-com channel, and that is where you can actually mine the data and you can understand who your customers are. We were very surprised that 67% of our total customer base is from 18 to 34 years of age. So this actually proves that if you maintain your brand DNA well, you can actually run it very, very smoothly and very effectively.
So as a retailer, how do you decide on the best market strategy to penetrate a market like India?
So in India, a very important part, if I'm looking at the channels of distribution, you have to have a multi-channel presence. You can't say that I am an offline brand or online brand, or I am an EBO brand or an MBO brand. So if we look at Lacoste, we have boutiques, we are present in MBOs, We are present online, we are present offline, we are present in travel retail, we are present in city, we have factory outlets. So all kind of formats are extremely important for a brand to be successful, for a brand like us to be successful in India. But at the same time, you have to, as I said, that as per our brand DNA, we follow a selective distribution policy. If we start opening too many number of doors, then the brand's perceived value will start coming down. So we have to keep in mind about those kind of strategies also. But the important strategy is to be present everywhere where your TG is there, your customer is there. He should be able to look at you. He should be able to keep you top of the mind when he goes shopping.
Presumably you have embraced the new social media platform within the company. How important is that for you moving forward within the company and taking your marketing to the next level?
Extremely important, as Tushar also put it very rightly. In our case, we are already 80% of our total marketing budget goes to social media and online marketing. One good tool that social media has provided us is to have the targeted marketing. Now I don't have to advertise in print media and keep wondering whether it is going to my customers or no. In social media, I can define that this is the kind of profile that I'm looking at to which my advertisement should be seen. So we use Facebook, we use Google AdWords, we use Instagrams to target and reach out to our customer, and that has proved to be very, very successful, especially when we analyze the data and when we see that a lot of that customer base who sees our advertisements on any of these social media, they get redirected to our own e-com website, and the sales numbers that actually reflect that social media is helping us directly in getting that sales.
And how do you develop new products and initiatives to stay ahead of the competition and also at the forefront of innovation?
So innovation, as I just explained, that the product development is a centralized function in our Paris office. We have an international creative department sitting in Paris, which creates new ranges at least 1 year in advance, and the same range goes and gets populated throughout the world. So it's not that different countries will have different ranges, except for very small ranges which are very, very particular to that country. So for example, in India, we do have an Indian range, which is knitted kurta pajama, which is not available anywhere else in the world. And it has a Lacoste logo. Similarly, if you talk about our classic polo, which has the maximum demand for our products, we add more colors in India as compared to international markets. Otherwise, the designing, the styling, everything is centralized in Paris.
And what do you consider to be the key drivers behind the success of the brand to date?
Oh, many of them. I think listing out a few of them might not be justifiable to all the factors, but I would still try to list out a couple of them or a few of them. So one is the in-store experience for the customer has to be wonderful. Secondly, your presence itself. You have to be in the right location, keeping your brand's positioning in mind. You should be seen to your TG wherever he goes, and only to your TG. So I'm not saying that you go on a market where your TG is also not present. Third, I would say the pricing strategy. Pricing, I'm definitely not suggesting discounting or price differential, etc. But pricing in sync with your brand's positioning and your brand's promise. The customer should not feel reluctant to pay price for the product that you're offering to that customer, keeping in view the brand promise, as I said. The customer service is extremely important. Visual merchandising is extremely important. And above all, I would say innovation. Innovation in terms of not only in terms of technology. Technology, of course, is important, but not only technology. The most important factor for innovation, in my view, is the product itself. The product should be innovative enough. It should, for a brand like Lacoste, where our main innovation also goes into the fact that the product, whatever product we make, it has to offer a freedom of movement to our customers. And those kind of technological factors or innovative factors, they're very, very relevant.
Innovation is key. Vivek, is there anything that on your mind or any burgeoning questions that you would like to ask Tushar or...
Tushar, for you, how, if a foreign retailer is looking at India, now he today has an option of coming in directly or choosing a potential franchise partner. Now, how do you sell yourself to a foreign retailer and convince him that instead of coming up on his own, I'm your guy?
I think a very good question. I think there have been brands, I think a lot of my friends here would know, we have been trying to get them to India for 5 years. 5 years it took us to get the brand, sign it, open the store. But 5 years we had to pursue them. Follow-up is the key. The second thing, they want to see the partner, they want to see the person behind it. Right? So they are more, first they want to see the person, who is it? Second, they want to see what have you proved or what have you done in the market. So they will see, okay, we have these 10 brands. In GCC, we have 75 brands. How are you treating your people? And actually, they would go to stores, and we would bring them to India on a market visit. They would like to see, love your location. So they say, your location is fantastic. Your relationship with the landlord is fantastic. Right? I have stores. I have actually gone out yesterday and I told him in the year, listen, I'm getting this brand next 2 years. Said, tell me 1 year before. I'll get your location, right? That's the relationship that the brand wants to see. Can you get me in the right location? Then are your processes, are you running your stores correct? Is your VM in the store correct? Is your customer service in the store correct? I have people who would go at 11 in the night in the store early morning when we are not with them. So they'll say, you know what, we need 1 day off. They'll go and talk to the salesperson on the floor. How is the company? How are they treating you? I think the partnership is what they're looking for. The other thing, why they don't want to come on their own, because we can do it faster for them. Can you get me into this mall? Can you get me there faster? And they don't have to learn the tricks. They don't have to worry about importing the product in India, about the MRP labeling, about the customs, about the labor, about holidays, about raining, about opening your store on time. We do all that. So if you come on your own, you will have at least 1.5 period to get your company running, get everything operational. It'll take time. By that time, the market has just moved. India is growing at a very fast pace. It's incredible what we see. And it is kind of a roller coaster ride, but the roller coaster ride has become much more smoother after the GST came in. The GST has actually made it easier for us to move goods. Anybody here, any retailer telling you GST is a problem, he doesn't know how to manage his business. Because it has made it easier to move goods within Mumbai. I can do daily deliveries because there's no octroi. There's no customs checking me now. It's e-way bill. I think the processes have become easier, but you need a partner to enter India because end of the day, I speak the language. I can go in a customs office. I can go in the landlord's office. I can go to his wedding. I can go to the temple. I can do things which you will not. I don't eat spicy food. That's the only thing I don't eat. But Indian food.
Neither do I.
It is important to go to the wedding. It is important to go. The relationship matters a lot. Which sitting in Europe or America, you'll never know. You will not know the difference between Delhi and Kanyakumari or Visakhapatnam. Right? We know. You will only look at numbers and say 5 million people. Can I take 2 more minutes?
1.
1 more minute. There is a city in India where consumers took 150 Mercedes-Benz 8 years back. 150. The Mercedes-Benz CEO came from Germany, went to the city, gave keys to everybody from S-Class to E-Class to whatever they had. My team came to me and said, let's open a store there. I said, wow, Mercedes-Benz, 150, multiply by $30,000, $50,000, fantastic, we should open. You know the problem with the city? None of the retail in our category, premium, are successful. Because when you open the car, the husband is coming out in a denim and a t-shirt. The wife still comes out in traditional dress and the daughter is wearing Barbie. The daughter is my customer. Husband will say to the wife, you know what? I think we should start with getting you accessories, watches. So you see a lot of watch brands in some cities and they sell a lot. But I will not, Western dress still not, it's not traditional. Then they will go to accessories, wear a good handbag. Then they will move on. So there is a way to do it. You cannot just say 150 Mercedes-Benz, let's go and open. Doesn't work like that. You have to know what is the tradition, what are they wearing, who is buying. For men's market, good. For women's, what category we are in, not so good. Maybe we'll go after 5 years, not today.
Don't get confused with the numbers, because numbers in India anyways look very huge, except the salary numbers.
A great piece of advice. You have to do your homework. We spoke about that at the beginning. It's important to educate yourselves on the market before penetrating it. I think you have a question for Rajesh.
Rajesh, since you already have kurta pajama now, so when are we moving to Nehru jackets?
So, unlikely, Vivek, as I said, that we follow the principle that the customer needs to get consistency, and entire range for the whole of the world is centralized and designed in Paris. It's only a few exceptions that are normally given to different countries, but those exceptions are exceptions, those are not rules, and they don't define that in future you can keep on making those exceptions, otherwise those exceptions will become rule.
Kanali's big business is Nehru jackets.
No, I'm sure they're doing so.
Business for them.
So good input. Maybe we'll think about it.
In case you see Nehru jackets in Lacoste, it was suggested by me.
Before we move
I will vouch for it. In fact, maybe we'll write it on the price tags and suggested by Mr. Vinod Kaul of CBRE.
Personally autographed.
Before we move on to two stalwarts in the development of malls in India, do we have any questions for our retailers on stage? There's a gentleman down here. Can we just get a mic over to him? And then there's a lady on the front row.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We love your brands, first of all.
Can you
Rajesh.
say your name and
My
your
name is
company?
Kapil Malhotra. I represent Total Solutions Group. From a customer's perspective, nowadays in India, we see a lot of counterfeit that is happening, right? Whereas you're here to provide genuine products. But the customer does get confused at the end of the day. So, A, what are you doing against anti-counterfeiting? And when a customer is buying from your store, there was a case recently at a 5-star hotel in Mumbai that was selling luxury handbags, and those were counterfeit as well. So, how do you guys address this problem?
So, Kapil, to answer your question, first of all, let's understand how does counterfeit enter into India, or how does it get into those small shops? There are 3 possible channels from which counterfeit enters India, or it gets into those small shops. One is manufacturing within India. Second is import from outside India. And the third is online channel. Now, what we do is we have a centralized IPR channel and trademark and counterfeit teams sitting centralized again in Paris, because that's our headquarter. And they take care of counterfeit throughout the world and not only India. It's not an India-specific problem only. Of course, India figures in one of the top countries where counterfeit is sold in quite a lot of numbers. What we do is, for manufacturing and for manufacturing especially, so we have legal firms here who join hands with police authorities, and they raid those manufacturing companies itself. And that's why we nip it in the bud itself. Second is imports. For imports, we organize training for custom authorities to tell them the difference between a genuine Lacoste and a fake Lacoste. Both these methods have been proved to be very, very successful and very effective in solving our problem of counterfeit to that extent. Now, the third channel, online, that's quite a bit of a problem, and not only in India again, even in China, if you see so much of counterfeit is sold through online channels. Getting to them, holding them, and stopping them from selling counterfeit is, and it's not only counterfeit for your information, it could also be unauthorized products. They could be genuine products, but unauthorized. They're not authorized to sell those products in India or in any other country for that matter. Stopping them from this is extremely difficult. However, what is happening, thankfully now, is that the customers are getting educated themselves. They know that if they're placing an order in an online channel, if it doesn't align with the brand's pricing or and most of the brands have their own e-com website also, like Lacoste has its own website. They could also compare the pricing and the styles, etc. online. And when they place the order, they know that this is the product. Knowingly, I am getting into a counterfeit because it is a cheaper product. I'm getting a logo. It might be a counterfeit. I'm getting a logo, but at a significantly lower price. Otherwise, if I want a genuine product, I will go for a genuine authorized distribution channel. So those are the few methods that we are taking to tackle this problem.
But you know what, Rajesh, the question still is that even if you're paying full price, at times still you don't know whether that product is actually genuine.
No. I don't think that could be the price unless you go to a marketplace and you where we are not present, and they start supplying them counterfeit products. Most of the marketplaces in India who actually matter, they give a refund policy to the customer. So the customer, once he gets it, he immediately gets to know. See, our products are something. Our product, as I said, it offers a freedom of movement. It is clean-cut designs. The moment a customer gets it and wears it, and if he is our TG only spends that kind of money. So the moment he wears it or uses it, he immediately knows that this is whether it's a genuine Lacoste product or it's a counterfeit product. If it's a counterfeit, they normally return it to the marketplace, and perhaps they might even write off that marketplace for all times to come. As far as our authorized channel is concerned, the point that you mentioned about that Bombay showroom, I think that was 1 in a million kind of a cases, which is unlikely to happen, not only in our brand, in any brand in India.
And there was a lady on the front row. If you have a quick question before we move forward. No, it's the lady. Yeah, perfect.
Hi, I'm Madhurima. I'm representing Manohar Lal Jewellers here. So, as you said, that the customers learning on the customers are learning on their own, and they're becoming more aware and more environmentally conscious. And there's a big push from all the international brands to be more environmentally conscious in terms of packaging or suppose leather. So, how do you see that progressing in the next couple of years?
I think Tushar does. Tushar,
You're talking about how are we being environment friendly? Environment friendly is not an option. You have to be environment friendly. So what most of the retailers, again, I'm not talking about only myself, most of the retailers in India, what they have started doing is, first of all, they have stopped using the plastic carry bags. Most of them use paper carry bags now, and the government is also very aware about the environment. So government has now stopped, in many states, government has stopped usage of plastic in any form whatsoever. So that's one of the aspects that is being taken care of. Other aspects, whenever we use whenever we make our products, and let me take an example of garments, the dyes that we use, there are two different kinds of dyes. One is VAT, one is reactive. The dyes that we use, I'm not saying that they're absolutely clean, but since you don't have an option, you use those dyes which are not as harmful to the environment as the other dyes could be. So some of these measures that I'm talking to you, there are only some of these steps I'm saying. There's a lot of impact that we take on our manufacturing process so that the environment does not get adversely impacted.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Rajesh. Without further ado, I would like to invite on stage Rajneesh Mahajan, CEO of Inorbit Malls, and Pankaj Renjhen, CEO of Virtuous Retail.
Thank you, Tushar, for
Good afternoon,
putting
gentlemen.
Lord and landlord in the same sentence.
Rajneesh.
I wish Lord will forgive us
The Lords have
your
arrived.
mistake.
We've had a lot of banter before this session, so they're really trying to get you involved now. So, Rajneesh, if I can start with you. Inorbit seek to provide one-to-one and one-stop destinations for fashion, lifestyle, food, entertainment, for an international experience. How do you determine the correct tenant mix to meet this consumer demand?
So the tenant mix is decided on two stages. One, when you are opening a new mall, and that is a tricky one because you do not have an experience of that location and you don't know how the market will respond to various product categories. We go with a bit of research. We understand the price points at which a larger market is working. We take high street data in account. We see with larger anchors, we understand how much of consumers for those micro markets are coming to their different stores. That's an collaborative process to understand where we should position this mall. It becomes far more easier once you have run the mall for 1 year because then the data starts flowing in from your own center. And that's authentic data and we have control over it. We slice data in 3 categories and 3 different buckets. One, we look at a category data, which means which product category is performing faster, growing faster, which category is not growing faster. So we look at the data analysis on the category bucket. Then we look at data on the price point bucket. Is the premium products moving faster? Is the mid-price products moving faster or the low-price product moving faster? That gives us advantage of understanding if a location is becoming available within the mall, how can we take it forward? The first layer of understanding is on data. The second layer of understanding is on the availability of the space which comes back to us in the mall because you cannot put your desired product in a non-complementing environment. So one has to marry the two. The data tells us which direction to take, but the space availability tells us which is the best fit for this location. That's how we look at it.
And what do you view as your key point of difference and what has been your most important investment in the last 12 months? I know when we spoke, we mentioned and talked about technology. So enlighten us.
So if you see, our first mall is going to complete 15 years. I think one of the first mall again in the country to have successfully completed 15 years and we still seeing a consumption growth coming in that property. So there are 2 investments that are going presently and one is in the upkeep and upgradation of the property and in a running mall when you invest in civil and you invest in the interiors, it is a very, very difficult process because throughout the day you have thousands of people shopping and you have a very small window available to do the fit outs and upgrade which is only in the night. And as a mall, even the mall is not sleeping at night because there are goods movement happening at the night. So there's a lot of activity. Movies run till late and the food and beverage run late. So we get very short window and it's a very tight schedule that we follow to upgrade the property. And that's one area where we are investing. So just to give you an example, in our first property in Malad, which is completing 15 years, when we started that mall, we had 5 escalators for the public movement. Today we have added 7 more escalators in that. So we have doubled the number of escalators in that mall and that's the kind of upgradation we invest in, looking at where we are lacking in consumer experience and we keep investing back. We are doing the same in Hyderabad. It is going through a renovation and that's a key investment. The second investment is in technology and presently for last 1 year the teams are working very hard to upgrade the data point available to us and very handy. If things go well and the way we have been promised and the way beta tests have done, I could be sitting with Rajesh in his office and on my phone, I can discuss the entire data points about his business, his competitive brands in my mall. I can tell him how many times his store opened late or not opened late. I can tell him how many times his store manager actually attended the marketing meet with our mall or not. So we are investing in technology so that we capture all kind of data points which impact the performance of a retailer and the mall, and we can discuss that more scientifically.
And clearly sustaining lasting relationships with tenants and operators is of paramount importance. How do you maintain that all-important partnership and how do you build upon that?
So I would say we are very lucky to have very strong relationships. I think larger across the board, we have our teams have respect and we are liked by people. But it is a very tricky business. I tell you the trickiness of this. A relationship in our business starts with a business opportunity. It goes through a very hard negotiation between 2 lawyers. And when you are successful, you want to make changes, and some of this relationship you want to change in the mall. So the whole cycle of tenant-landlord relationship is very tricky. But where it becomes extremely handy is that we can co-create events, we can co-create experiences, we can reach out to the consumers. And the biggest advantage of a relationship in this is that you can co-create product. You can sit with the retailers, you can understand what's happening, and you can start planning a product 3 years down the line. And you can see where the mall needs to move because the feedback comes in, and you can plan together. Like Tushar said, that a developer starts promising location 2 years advance when the brand is going to come in. So you can create a positioning for your mall far in advance with this relationship. And despite all the trickiness of this relationship, I think it's far important that we have a very, very strong relationship where one is open to feedback candidly and appreciates that somebody is giving a feedback to improve. So if we as landlords are giving an feedback to a retailer, is more to improve the business together. And if a retailer is giving a feedback, is less complaint, is more to improve the business together as well. So that openness has to be there, that appreciation and respect has to be there.
Thank you. Moving forward and on to you, Pankaj. The company's vision for India is to create new social hubs for the urban consumer across the country's major cities. How important is it to have that connective accessibility in the planning of these projects? And what are the key factors that they will showcase?
So, it's from a connectivity perspective and planning, we invest a lot of time in so much so that we have a specific design cell in our team, and we call something which is involved in the entire planning of the shopping center from all aspects perspective. Not only from the planning perspective, wherein you always get a good architect and a good set of consultants who come on board to develop and plan your centers. We have a completely a full team which works independently in the business, which is called the design, control and audit, which even go down to even check how our planters are put in each of our centers. So the planning at the time of the planning work when the centers are being conceived to even operations, there is a full-fledged manuals and guidelines laid for our centers which define even the smallest aesthetics parts of each of those centers. The whole idea is to create a great customer experience, because all our ethos of our centers, and we are spread very geographically in very, very different markets. We are right up in the north, in almost at the topmost of the country. Probably one of the largest cities there is in a city called Chandigarh, and we are then our center is, the last center is at the bottommost of the country in the super metro called Chennai. So really we stretch from north to the south and in between as well. So currently 4 operational centers and 2 more under development. So 6 centers over 8.3 million square feet. So as I say, the level of detailing which we are doing is far more than we've seen that, and we not use any benchmarks in this country to say, okay, this is what others have done well. We'll always incorporate elements from our peers and our friends who have done it, but we always want to set our own benchmarks as well. Like the center which is being reflected right now is one of the first 2 centers we put up in Bangalore. Till when we put up this center, which was actually really the first true sense of a mixed-use development in this country. This center has 3 asset classes which sit in the same development, is anchored by a retail lifestyle center. It has a boutique 54-room long-stay hotel, and it has office space which is occupied by a large co-working company. And each of these assets, 3 assets, talk to each other. So they are distinct in their identity, but they talk to each other. So you can actually virtually walk from your hotel room and connect to your office floor with your room key. So you can actually walk from your room to your office, which are 2 different sets of asset classes in the same building, and you can walk through and through, and without going out. You can walk through your office and come into the food court. You can walk through the from the food court. You can walk really back to the office as well, and or could go and you could go back to the fitness center of the hotel as well. So it's really very well integrated. So planning for us becomes extremely important because. In today's world, people are not coming for just shopping. They're not coming to buy brands alone. They're coming for the experience. And the first thing which we are putting together is the hardware. So first we put the right hardware in place, then we get our friends and partners, business partners like retailers like Tushar and Rajesh to come and participate. And then we continue to deliver and enhance the experience on a world-class experience to them as a customer service. Because today our competition is not another shopping center. Our competition is not another high street retail. Our competition is not Amazon. What I'm fighting for is the time of the customer. If he sits at home and watches Netflix, he's not going to, that means of those 2 hours on a weekend, which I have 2 hours of his time less spent to come an opportunity, from opportunity perspective, to come and watch, come and sit in my shopping center, probably watch a movie, spend time with his family. So what we're trying to create is get not the wallet spend, we're trying to get the time spent of that customer first, and then the wallet will automatically follow.
So seamless connectivity.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So what key factors do you take into consideration when you're putting your retail mix together, and to provide that experience in mixing it with the leisure and then the entertainment? What key factors do you look for?
First of all, we study whom I'm making the center for. Each of our centers are, and if you look at our full philosophy of our centers, it's all about it. There is a simple tagline. It doesn't talk about shop, dine, eat, nothing. It just talks about and saying, very simple, connecting communities. We are basically building shopping centers or leisure centers for connecting the community who lives around there. So it is very, very important how do we connect our centers. No reflection on any other centers, but if you really look at it, most of the centers are designed by big international architects. They become, in India also, they become a reflection of each other, glass, big box buildings with great atriums, escalators, and the others. We use, each of our centers are very, very unique. To pick up the example of our center, which we just kind of in the opening stage, is in Chennai. It's a flagship center, 252 stores spread over 2 million square feet. It has the amount of art and artifacts we've invested in that center is inspired by the traditional temples of the south, and particularly of Tamil Nadu. So we've taken the design aesthetics, so much art and artifacts, and the local culture has been imbibed that you typically tend to do, if you go to typically historical places, there are these curated walks which are done. We're inspired from that, and we are going to do curated walks with a curator in our centers, which is via guided tours, and which will be with ceremonies. So the idea is to incorporate in local, outside, what is there outside, and get them to feel comfortable. We're not showcasing best brands there. The brands will be there, so that's a part of the shopping center. Each brand will be there, but the reason is if I'm able to create a world-class shopping center with the aesthetics in place where the person feels connected to. My Punjab center is very, very different from my Chennai center. So if I'm able to put that, and also the tenant mix is also the ingredients. It's like, for a standard recipe for making a pasta, everybody needs the pasta, you need the olive oil, you need the cheese, and you need probably the chicken and the bacon, and you need some spices, right? Or depending on the sauce, what you need. But it's how you put the ingredients together. The ingredients remain the same, but how you whip up the recipe, that makes it tastier, right? You can read it off the net, the recipe, but you not necessarily come up with the right pasta. What we were trying to do is that we use the same ingredients, but do it the right way, make it very local. Make it for the people who are there. My biggest celebration in my center, which is in a tier 2 town called Surat, which is in the west of India, is about the Garba, which is the second most prominent Garba festival in that city. The largest one hosts 50,000 people. I don't have space for that. But the second one, which is ours, we host about 11,000 people for 11 consecutive nights every night. So that's about being local.
Great, that's a recipe for success. So that moves on perfectly to invite our international retailers to the stage. Can I invite Damian Hopkins, International Director of Matalan? Anabel Soares, International Franchise Director of Camaieu. Alex Coombe, Business Development Director of the UK, Benelux and India for Beau Concept. And last but definitely not least, Helen Barnish, Managing Director of Entertaining Damian, if we start with you, can we have a quick snapshot of Matalan?
I'll make the emphasis on quick, because even though this is the international panel, I notice our colleagues here in India have grabbed all the limelight from us.
Don't worry, I'm sure they'll give us more time, because this is probably really interesting. So.
But it's lovely to be back in India. I've spent quite a lot of time in India, so I used to be a manufacturer. So I've been fortunate enough to travel around a lot of India, and it's lovely to be back here as a retailer introducing Matalan, which hopefully some of you may have heard of, but those that haven't, it's a fashion and home value retail chain based in the UK, established in 1985. We're one of the largest privately owned retail businesses in the UK, with sales of well over £1 billion, over 17,000 employees, 250 stores in the UK, 30 international stores, 20,000 SKUs a season, and we are currently leading the way in what is a very tough market in Europe. As you see on the slides behind me, you'll see some of our products, some of our stores. The store on the screen at the moment is from Jordan, I believe, and that's who we are.
And who is your target consumer? And would you say that that has evolved at all over recent years?
Our target, when our founder set up the business in 1985, he was founding a business that would appeal to families throughout the UK. So we target everybody from baby, children, mothers, fathers, grandparents. You know, our target consumer has been the British modern family. But we've also been mindful about their disposable income. So we're very much a value-driven retailer, but we haven't sacrificed quality to deliver that. Our quality sits up there alongside some of the top international retailers that you would all consider high-quality brands, such as M&S, Debenhams, Next, etc. But we are considerably better value. So we target the families who have perhaps got a tighter income, and that's how I think we've benefited from going international into some of the new markets that we've been going into over the last 5 years. We've got an extensive business across the Middle East, where we now have 25 stores throughout the UAE. We're in Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, etc. Malta, Armenia, Gibraltar, Cyprus. But particularly the Middle East and India, I think, is a really appealing market because of the disposable income that consumers have, and I think our brand is well suited to this market. I think actually... And
we have an excellent example of one of these stores. So your newly launched Bergman Centre store in Dubai. Please can we play the video?
A very short video that was from a store we opened last month in the Bergman Centre in Dubai. This is a 32,000 square foot store, and hopefully if the media people
can we have the sound?
Set it up.
Here we go.
I love Matalan because the collection and the quality is excellent. My whole family shops here. The patterns, everything is trendy. We like Matalan because it's affordable and it has fashion for almost everyone, all age group. We have very good quality products. The designs are amazing, and they have amazing decoration items. I like everything in Matalan. I like the material. I just love shopping here because everything is under one roof. Very happy they opened in Virtuous. I love Matalan.
There's a bit of a limp sick problem there.
You can see the voices coming and the mouths are going.
I think what would be more fun if we had a lip sync battle up here. If anyone watches the TV show Lip Sync Battle where we sing, I could do some Bollywood.
No,
perhaps.
we haven't got time. Sorry, Jayne.
No, are you sure?
But Anabel, can you basically give us a brief insight into your brand?
So good afternoon, all of you. Camaieu is a French fashion brand. We have 900 stores throughout mainly Western and Eastern Europe. Our annual turnover is €1 billion, and we are the leader of women fashion in France. And actually, our market share is slightly bigger than the one of Zara and H&M altogether. So we're pretty proud of that. And we are looking into entering the Indian market, so we're just at the initial steps of understanding actually the continent. I agree, it's not a country. And as Vivek said, I mean, if we have to be passionate about our brand to enter India, well, I'm passionate, and ready.
Thank you, Anabel. And how well have you found that your offer actually translates across borders, both culturally and in terms of consumer wants and needs? Have you found it necessary to actually amend any part of the portfolio?
Well, actually, as Tushar and Rajesh said, a global brand or an international brand that is successful abroad actually has the same shop experience, the same product, the same collection throughout the world. If you travel, you enter the stores of brands such as Zara, H&M, Ralph Lauren, Uniqlo, soon Camaieu, you will see that the collection is all the same. However, if you look closely, you will see that there are some styles that you will not find everywhere else. So I don't know if you all remember the ad campaign of HSBC, think globally, act locally. Well, so that's how we should address local markets. And when I talk about local markets, I'm not talking about countries, each countries, but it's more from a regional point of view, unless the country is a continent itself. Again, India. So we definitely have to look into the specific of the market. Camaieu has 30 stores in Saudi Arabia, and that's definitely one of the markets where your collection has to be specific. So long sleeves, long skirts, no necklines. So we had to create a specific collection for the market. And actually, after 7 years, today this collection reaches 30% of the annual turnover. So it's not insignificant. But actually, if you go to Asia, you will definitely find some specific styles. Even at Zara, they have specific style for Korea, Japan. But it's not only the only aspect, you have to look into it. So it's not only the style, but it's always also the fitting. So if you're a European or American brand and you go to Asia with your fittings, forget about it. You're sure that you will definitely not do well on those markets. Actually, it was one of the issues of Timberland. And the brand never really performed well with its clothing line because neither in Europe nor in Asia, because they kept their US fittings, which are definitely more comfortable than in Europe and Asia. So you have to look into the specifics of the market from a region perspective, but if you look as well within the region, we are so strongly located in Europe, and we also had, so same region, but we also had to do specifics for our Western countries, where our customer is definitely more city-oriented, and our line in Western Europe is more sportswear and casual. So again, specific collections. So specific collections are a requirement, but it has a cost, and cost of the minimum quantities manufacturers are very low, the human resources allocated. So if you really want to expand your brand internationally, and if you want to grow it strongly, you have to look into the specifics. So it will be considered as a strategic perspective, but believe me, it will cost, but it's definitely an investment for future paybacks. And if you do it well, yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Thank you. And Alex, tell us a little bit about Beau Concept.
That's great. Thanks very much indeed, Jane. So Beau Concept is a leading global lifestyle furniture brand. We're active in the accessible luxury market, and we're very much focused on a Scandinavian and metropolitan aesthetic. But I think before perhaps I talk too much about the brand, could we show the video?
We have a great video to show everyone.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thanks.
Can we get the video?
Do we have
It
sound?
all began in this place.
And do we have
in
sound?
Denmark in 1952. Two cabinet makers decided to open a furniture factory. They were sensible, modest people with a strong dedication to their craft, to make the most out of less. And so their vision was not only to create good-looking furniture, they strongly believed that it had to be functional and good value for money too. Every line and detail of each and every piece is based on true Danish design traditions, where beauty is to be found in the simplest of forms, where usefulness is just as important as look, and where value for money is achieved by thinking smart. Our ideas are created here in Denmark, but our inspiration comes from the big cities around the world. We set out to convince and conquer the world when we opened our first furniture store in Paris in 1993. And soon found that the simplicity of our designs, the refinement of details, and the quality of materials made our designs fit any lifestyle or taste, whether it be Paris or any other city in the world. Big cities are where contrasts meet. Different cultures, different tastes, different lifestyles, where there's room for individual expression. Great design knows no borders. Whether you visit Book Concept in New York or any other city of the world, you have a choice. So you can have it exactly as you wish. New traditions, new ideas, new ways of living. New meets old, fast meets slow, and chaos meets calm. But some things never change. The basic need to feel at home is just as important in Shanghai as in any other part of the world. So no matter where in the world your home is, a home has to feel like home. It has to look good in your eyes and work in your life. This is the essence of Book Concept, as it has been from the beginning of our journey and still will be in the future, so that you can tell your own story in your own home. Book Concept, urban Danish design since 1952.
Thank you, Alex. You have a strong, recognizable brand internationally, and you've had a presence here in India now for 5 years. How do you actually stay ahead of innovation with cutting-edge products and everything else to remain at the very height? How do you go about maintaining that?
Okay, absolutely. So perhaps before I come on to that, I should say, first of all, I hope everybody enjoyed that video. And we've grown significantly, and we've now got 319 stores in 65 countries. So you're absolutely right, we're truly a global brand. But it's really imperative for us to maintain our Scandinavian ethic, the functionality of our product, while also paying notice to current trend and technology. So of course, there's various ways we can look at that. First with the internal teams. Our chief designer and product developer in the business has been with us for now over 20 years. So has a very keen idea of what Bow Concept is and what it stands for. We also partner with well-known global designers such as Oki Sato and also Henrik Pedersen. So we combine that with using the latest products, latest fabrics, the latest technologies in leathers, etc. And in terms of technology, obviously we want to maintain our very clean aesthetic, but also to include things such as USB points, etc.
Thank you, Alex. And Helen, looking at international brands, you have a wealth of expertise in bringing international brands into India with various retailers that you will enlighten us about. But can you tell us a little bit about your journey and any insights along the way, any advice that you can give to our audience?
Thank you. I've had the pleasure of coming to India many times. My initial background with India was actually working with the Body Shop in the early days of planning the strategy into India, and I believe there's now over 150 stores in this market. I worked for Nokia retail brand when the experimental store was created, and part of that key team. And when we first came into India, we did a sort of count of how many stores we thought we had, and we thought we had 450 stores, and we actually had over 1,500 stores. And obviously, part of India's tradition has been many, many franchises and sub-franchises and sub-franchises. And a lady earlier asked a question about counterfeit product. We also had some problems with that. So what we had to do there was to establish 2 own-operated stores, one in Delhi and one in Mumbai, to really establish what the brand was about, and then actually completely review all our existing operators and bring in new, really kind of retail franchise partners rather than partners that could just sell out of glass boxes, which is what happened then. After Nokia, I went to join Hamleys. Hamleys at that point had 2 stores here in India, one here in Mumbai in Phoenix Mills and one in Chennai. And at that point, we knew we had a business here and we had to decide how to move forward. So one of the challenges which we talked about earlier was just location, finding the right locations, finding the right rental deal, but also finding the right size of store. So we had huge problems with things like ceiling heights, which was mentioned earlier. So we actually had to adapt our format and decided that for India, we would, on the whole, would roll forward with smaller format stores, which meant we could do multiple stores in cities rather than one. So we had to change and learn and work with our partners, Reliance, to find the right format. So I left there in 2017. I think we had 30 stores. They're now at 50, and I've just been with them this morning, and their plans are for over 100 stores. So that brings in one of the other key partners, which is about having the right partner. You work with them, it's a relationship, you have to get feedback. You can't sit in London and assume that you can understand the Indian market. You can't, your partner knows that market. You know your brand, and you have to work together. One of the quick points is obviously average selling prices will be lower. It's a challenge. Most people don't have as much money disposable income as other markets. So you have to look at your product proposition and make sure that you have the right price points for that particular market, but also be able to offer the full range, because consumers here obviously want to see a full range they see in the rest of the world. So that's one of the key points there as well. After I left Hamleys, I went to work for Merlin Entertainments Group. So at that time, my first question in the interview is, why aren't you in India yet? There's this massive opportunity for entertainment and experience. And we worked on the strategy and then the opening of Madame Tussauds in Delhi. One of the key challenges there for that particular location in Connaught Place is it's a high street location rather than mall. So again, we thought we had one landlord, but I think we had 6. There were all sorts of little side stalls that had an owner. It'd been sublet and sublet and sublet. And things like the power was on the building next door. So there are huge sorts of issues as an international retailer. If you choose to go into a high street location, going into malls is a much easier one. Since I left Merlin, I've got my own company now, but actually bringing both retail, F&B and experience brands into markets such as India with the kind of understanding that I've built up, but very much working with local partners and local experts and property experts in those markets.
Perfect, thank you. Now, before we open up to a couple of questions from the audience for our panelists, I know, Alex, you have a question for our developers. And this is quite good because it's putting on the retail side and asking the developers and putting them on the spot.
Well, I'm not too sure how on the spot they'll feel, but a brand like Beau Concept really doesn't need a huge amount of footfall. But what it does need is it needs the right footfall. It's a destination retailer, and it needs other similar-like brands surrounding it. So my question for the developers is, how can you work within your schemes to create the kind of destinations that are going to attract us and other similar retailers to drive really a different offer within the schemes and to really perhaps maximize sales densities within essentially secondary areas?
It's definitely, like I said in my earlier statement, when you're making a shopping center, and what my colleague Rajneesh also mentioned, it's putting the right recipe together. So every tenant brings something to the table for us, so much so that we are very, very careful, particularly when we plan our centers. While the time of planning itself, we actually do up the the casual leasing plan as well, which is the small format retailers, which are a lot more local and which will not get incorporated in a big store or small stores, but need to be given space. And they're selling small quirky stuff, and what we call this the RMUs, or the kiosks format as well. So we even do planning for all those as well. So, and you're here talking about a big brand like yourselves, or may not be generating numbers in terms of footfall, but what will get to centers like us is quality customers who will come specifically for your brand as well. To give you a case in point example of our center in Bangalore, we have the only Muji store in the city, and it doesn't get huge amount of footfall. But why do we have them? Because it's in a location called Whitefield, which is 35% would be expat dominated, who are used to buying a brand like that, who appreciate quality. It doesn't drive footfall, but it drives quality customers to our mall. And we've given them prime space. We have a very, what we call the top end of the supermarket or gourmet store in the mall. Again, we had a choice to do a regular hypermarket versus a gourmet supermarket. We chose the gourmet supermarket because we wanted to attract a certain profile of customers. On the facade, I have vacated a very prime fashion tenant because they're there everywhere, and given it to a very unique boutique cafe, which is known in India for doing their roasting their own beans, which is very, very unique. And they gave us a study and saying this will be the only one, and their maximum amount of fraction, because it's expensive in that cafe. The beans are one of their largest customer set base is in Bangalore, because from the online track, they've been able to generate sales which is generate. So we're not depending on the center, but if you go to a center like Punjab for us, which is a large 1.2 million square feet, we'll have everyone in there. And regarding the choice of locations, we actually, when we plan, we also look at in saying how the customer movement is coming. Somebody who's going to come and buy from a store like yours doesn't want to be where everybody's just walking up and down and buying fashion. It needs to be well located. It should be well accessible, but it should also have some kind of a piece with them, wherein they can actually shop for some time, take their own time, because they're buying a product which is going to stay with them for a long period of time, and it's probably going to be a large share of their wallet as well. So we also try and see if we can create the right spaces for the right tenant and right category as well. So from category planning becomes very, very important, and then we start putting the right brands in that category. And obviously, we have to look at the choice we have is to choose from a basket of retailers who have the supply chain who are available to come into that market as well. So that also sometimes constrains us, not that we want to go with our own wish list, but it constrains us because India is still a developing market. Not all brands which are prevalent in India are ready to go to each of those markets, because particularly, as I said, our centers are in top tier super metro cities, and they are in tier 2 towns as well.
Thank you, Pankaj. Unfortunately, that brings us to a close for this session. I'm sure that you all have burgeoning questions for one of our panel members. So if you would like to meet them outside, they're quite happy to have a cup of coffee with you, and you can talk about business, maybe even close some deals. But I'd like to say thank you to this afternoon's panel. So if you could all show your appreciation. They have actually asked me for a standing ovation, so I'm not actually quite sure you're going to do that. Thank you, and I hope that's been of interest to you. Thank you. Thank you, panel.
Thank you so much, everyone on the panel, for an informative discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We just had panel discussion on international retailers in India. The subtopics that were discussed. The first subtopic was Indian retail market overview and industry key facts. The next subtopic discussed was source the right local partner and find the best strategy to penetrate India. Focus on establish international brands and best experiences. Spot new locations. Discover international retailers looking for expansion in India. Thank you so much everyone on the panel for amazing panel discussion on international retailers in India.
Okay.